Welcome back in this lesson again. The call of the soil, the scent of rice. In last time you've seen that some part of the videos of this lesson. Now I begin with that lesson, the call of soils. So when I was in Dhaniwari, Bhavan, and I started looking for Devhanda and found a graying old man wearing a cap sitting outside his house on a charpai. An ex serpent of his village, he heard acre of land, a huge house, and large family. After exchanging the usual pleasantry, we came to the topic of Kasbai. The mere mention of Kasbai and Devhanda drifted into the past. His eyes turned, dreamed, and with a tremble in his voice, he told us how the entire village at the one time grew only Kasbai. He said there was one time when people passing our village during the lunchtime would be forced to stop and ask for a meal. Such was the alluring aroma of Kasbai. The entire area would have this heady aroma hanging in the air as all the houses cooked the same rice. Today, he said, no one grew the kasbai and everyone had shifted to growing a new hybrid variety. He claimed he had to force himself to eat this rice that was so inspired. So writers wants to visited to that particular place where the kasbai has to be grew on that days. So writer find out went toward the Dhaniwari with Baban, and I started looking Divhanda for that old man wearing the particularly cap sitting on the charpai. And ex-sarpanch of this village, the story of that particular village, he had the acre of land and huge families, large house. He has their usual pleasantry on that Kasbai's topic on Kasbai. He merely mentioned that in Kasbai and Divhanda drifted into that past because of his eyes were rarely dreamy. With a tremble voice, the entire village had one of the particular grew in Kasbai. He said there was a timing passing the village and many of the people has to be lunchtime. That time they forcefully asked for the getting meals. At that time that the aroma of that kasbai is very well, so that is headed spreaded everywhere in the particular year. Whenever the people can cooking that in houses, that rice, that smell is everywhere. But now no one has to be grew the kasbai, everyone has to be planted the hybrid variety of that rice and forcefully eat this rice was so inspired us at that time. तेव्हा धनिवारला जाऊन आम्ही बबन आणि देवहांडाला शोधू लागलो. टोपी घातलेला पांढऱ्या केसाचा वयस्कर मनुष्य घराबाहेरच्या खाटेवर बसलेला आम्हाला आढळला. तो गावाचा माजी सरपंच होता आणि त्याचे फार अनेक एकर जमीन, मोठे घर, मोठे कुटुंब. जुजबी गप्पा गोष्टी झाल्यावर आम्ही कसबाईचा विषय काढला. कसबाईच्या नुसत्या उल्लेखाने देवहांडा भूतकाळात शिरला. त्याचे डोळे स्वप्नाळू झालेत आणि सारे गाव एकेकाळी कसबाईचे पीक कसे घेत असे हे सांगताना त्याचा आवाज कंप जाणवला. ते म्हणाले, एक काळ असा होता की जेवणाच्या वेळी गावावरून जाणारी माणसं वाटेत न राहून थांबायची, जेवणाची मागणी करायची. कसबा इतका मोहिनी घालणारा सुगंध होता. संपूर्ण गाव याच तांदूळाचा भात शिजवत असल्यामुळे परिसरात वातावरणात त्याचा मोहक सुवास भरलेला असायचा. ते पुढे म्हणाले की आज कुणीही कसबाईचं पीक घेत नाही. सर्व नव्या संकरित जातीच्या बी आहे त्याच्याकडे वळलेत आणि नाईलाजाने त्यांना आता तोच बेचव तांदूळ खावा लागत आहे. With the advent and irrigations, farmers were tempted to growing the second crop and Kasbai, being the longest duration rice, was replaced by the shorter duration hybrid so that the harvest could be done either. This ensured that the farmers could take up the second crop. So there are so many problems in nowadays in present days. That's why the people can change the second crop in grow by instead of kasbai, because of the farmers needed long time to growing that kasbai. Growing duration is long time, so shorter duration hybrid variety they can implemented in this planted in their particular farms, harvested could be earlier, and that's why they take up the second टाईप ऑफ द व्हरायटी ऑफ राईस. सिंचनाच्या प्रसारामुळे दुसरे पीक लावण्याकडे शेतकरी आकर्षित झाले आणि कसबा हे खूप उशिरा येणारे भाताचे पीक असल्यामुळे कापणी लवकर करता यावी म्हणून लवकर पिकणाऱ्या संकरित पिकांची त्यांनी जागा घेतली. I asked why he had shifted. It was so unhappy with hybrid. No one forced to him to do, did they? They smiled and replied that their field did not have the fences. Once harvested was over, the cattle were released into the field, and if my field alone has passed by, it will be treated for the cattle, he explained. So many of writers said to that particular persons about why did you have so unhappy with hybrid, and you are not forced to them did that planted kasbai. So he said that whenever the harvested period, people can be harvesting in their rice, and only I have to be uh, planted the kasbai. At that time, whenever harvesting time, the cattle can be eat my kasbai as the great feast, and that's why I have also not planted the kasbai in Marathi. ते स्वतः जर संकरित पिकावर नाखुश होते तर ते इकडे का वळले, कोणी त्याला जबरदस्ती केली नव्हती का, असे मी विचारत त्यांना हसून उत्तर दिले की त्या शेताला कुंपण नव्हते का. एकदा हंगाम संपला की गुरे शेतात सोडली जातात, जर एकट्याने शेतात कसबाई असेल तर गुरांना ती मेजवानीच ठरणार, याचा खुलासा त्यांनी केला. Sometimes we have the fall in the line with the community in, he lamented. Hybrid need not more water, fertilizers and pesticide. Need more water, pesticide and fertilizers. He said that yield were good initially, but of late he reduced a lot. Besides, he said that each year they had to increase the quantity of urea and pesticide they used. It was as if the newer hybrid had an insatiable appetite of chemicals. He told us that even when there were flash floods in the 60s, Kasbai had stood its ground. He found the remember how the rice was still standing when they all returned to the village after the flood had receded. Such was the strength of the rice. But look what they have done, he rued. So he said that hybrid variety of the seeds or field in that field that uses that crops, the crops needed more waters, fertilizer and pesticide. They have initially, but late he had reduced a lot. Afterwards, in every year, increase the good quantity of urea and pesticide they uses. That's why newly bred hybrid initially applies the chemicals. They have mainly chemical uses for that particular good kind of that growing rice in the field. Flash flood in the 60s, Kasbai had stood on its ground. He fondly remembered how the rice was standing when they all returned in the village after the flood had receded. Whenever the flood has receded in 60, that the Kasbai had stood on the ground and other crop field has to be disturbed and collapse. Such was the strength of the rice, but look what we have done in roots. In Marathi, कधी कधी समाजाच्या रूढीप्रमाणे आपल्याला जुळून घ्यावे लागते. कष्टी होतं ते म्हणाले. संकरित पिकांना अधिक पाणी, खतं, कीटकनाशक लागतात. सुरुवातीला पीक उत्तम देत असतं, पण हल्ली ते खूप कमी होऊ लागले आहे. त्याशिवाय वापरल्या जाणारे युरिया, कीटकनाशकाचे प्रमाण त्यांना दरवर्षी वाढवले लागते. जणू काही या नव्या संकरित बियाणाच्या रसायनाची वकवकती भूक होती. 60च्या काळात आकस्मिक पूर आला आणि कसबाईचे पीक तेवढे तग धरून होते, असे त्यांनी सांगितले. पूर ओसरल्यानं सर्वजण गावात परतले तेव्हा भाताचे पीक तसेच शेतात उभे होते, असे हृदयी आठवण त्यांनी सांगितले. अशी होती या तांदूळाची मजबूती. पण आता आपण काय करून ठेवले हे पहा. त्यांना सगळ्यांना त्याच्या गोष्टीचं दुःख होत असतं. As he went on the reminiscing about the rice, we gently guided him back to the reason for our village. The Kasbai said he was sure that there was not a single village in the area who would have the seed of the Kasbai. According to him, the only people who still grew it were in Adivas in hamlet at the foothills of mountain in the next village of Asavari. We bid a farewell to Devhanda, who lovingly blessed us and said, Mahalakshmi, the local goddess, will give you a seed of Kasbai. The reminiscing means the remember story about the past event. So whenever he asked to that person's, so I needed some Kasbai seeds. At that time, that person gave the particular answer. He was sure that no one in this village had the seed of Kasbai. According to the people, they live in particular foothills of hamlet Adivasi. In next village of that mountain, Asavari, they had maybe. We bid the Devhanda, who lovingly blessing and said, Mahalakshmi will give you the seed of कसबाई. अशा प्रकारची भाताची आठवण ते रमलेल्या पहिल्यावर आम्ही हळूच आमच्या भेटीचे प्रयोजन म्हणजे कसबाई बियाण्याचे विषय वळवला. त्याच्याकडे कसबाईचे बियाणे असेल असा एकही गावकरी त्याच्या भागात नाही याची खात्री होती. मात्र शेजारच्या आसावरी गावात डोंगर पायथ्याशी असलेल्या लहानशा खेड्यात आदिवासी असून अजूनही हे पीक घेतात असे ते म्हटले. देवहंडाचा निरोप घेऊन आम्ही निघालो आणि आम्हाला आशीर्वाद देत ते मायाने म्हणाले, कुलदेवता महालक्ष्मी तुम्हाला कसबाईचे बियाणं मिळू दे, असं सांगत तो पुढे निघाला. In Asarvi village, we were asked the Sarpanch to help us. We were not very fluent in this local dialect. He sent his assistant Jivan with us into the hills. After the half an hour walk through the thick vegetations, crossing numerous streams and ditches and stumblings over the rock and gravels, we reached the sleepy hamlet of Boripada. There was just two ramshackle houses in front of us, and we wondered if this was the right place. A wrinkled old woman sitting before one of the houses looked at us with curiosity. As we approached her, we signaled to Jivan and asked the crucial questions. He muttered and replied, and we looked at Jivan for a quick interpretation. She broke into the smile and informed us that she did have the rice and wanted to know who we were and why he wanted it. So whenever I visited in near to that particular village Asavari, and I asked the Sarpanch to help us because of we unknown about the dialect of that local people, and there was the one person who became the assistant whose name is Jivan, and he guided us about into walk in the hilly area. Half an hour walking through that particular thick vegetations. That time there is some numerous crossing stream and detached and stumbling over the rock and gravels, and afterwards sleepily Hamlet reached the Boripada. There was the one house, the ramshackle means state of the saver despairs. There was the one woman who sat in front of the particular house and looked us with the very curiosity. I signed to that Jivan, asked some kind of the crucial question to that. She muttered and replied to the Jivan for the quick interpretations, and he broke into the smile and informed did have some rice and wanted to know about why he wanted that. स्थानिक भाषा चांगल्या पद्धतीने बोलता येत नसल्यामुळे आसावरी गावातील सरपंचाला आम्ही मदत करण्याची विनंती केली आणि त्यांनी त्यांच्या सहकारी जीवनाला आमच्याबद्दल डोंगरात पाठवलं आणि साधारण अर्धा तास वाट झाडीतून चालत असताना अनेक ओढे चर पार करीत आम्ही दगड मातीतून वाट काढल्याने आम्हाला बोरीपाडा सुस्त खेड्यापाशी येऊन पोहोचलो. तिथं जीर्ण झालेली 1-2 घरं दिसत होती आणि आपण त्या ठिकाणी आलो आहोत या आम्ही विचारात पडलो. एका घरासमोर बसलेली म्हातारी बाई कुतूहलाने आमच्याकडे पाहू लागली आणि आम्ही तिच्याजवळ पोहोचलो तेव्हा तिला ते कळीचा प्रश्न विचारला, जीवनाला खून केले. उत्तर दाखल ती काहीतरी फुटले आणि त्यांचा अर्थ जाणून घेण्यासाठी आम्ही जीवनकडे पाहिले आणि तो हसला आणि म्हणाला की त्याच्याकडे त्या प्रकारचा भात आहे आणि आम्ही कोण आहोत, तो भात आम्हाला कशासाठी पाहिजे हे ती विचारत आहे. It was a difficult task to keep the straight face too. I had to control strong desire to hug her. After the searching for a month, we had found the elusive Kasbai, and we explained to her that we were from the pit nearby and we needed seed to grow it. We asked for the 10 kilometer of rice. She muttered and scrawled. Jivan interpreted that he had never heard the pet village and also did not have the weighing scale. She was willingly to give us seed only in basket. We asked for the single basket of rice and Jivan told us to pay her something. I handed over the 100 rupees note and for the first time in the last 10 minutes her face broken into smile. She nodded her head and approved. So finally, after the month's difficulties, I had got that seed of Kasbai. Writer had thought that strong desire to hug her. After searching 1 month, that particular word exclusive, difficult to find, catch or achieved. He explained each and everything he had came from the pit nearby, near to growing that seeds. There is 10 kilometer of the rice. We asked for that. She muttered and scrolled. Julian interpreted, and she never heard about that pet village, and she was willing to seed in the basket, but I had said a single basket of the rice and give the 100 rupees note in front of that. From that 10 minutes she had to continuously smile and she had to approve. आता तिचा चेहरा निर्विकार ठेवणे मला अवघड होते. स्फूर्तपणे तिला मिठी मारावे अशी तीव्र वेदनेने विरोध होती. अनेक महिने शोध घेतल्यानंतर आता आम्हाला चकवा देणारे कसबाई सापडला होता. आम्ही जवळ पेठ गावाहून आलो आहोत. ते पीक घेण्यासाठी तांदळाचे बी आम्हाला हवे आहे हेच तिला सांगितले आणि तिच्याकडून 10 किलो तांदूळ मागितले. कपाळावर आठ्या घालत ती काहीतरी फुटले. जीवनने स्पष्टीकरण दिले. तिने कधीही पेठ गावाचे नाव ऐकले नव्हते. तिच्याकडे वजनाचा काटा नव्हता. ती भाताचे बियाणे टोपल्यामध्ये देण्यास तयार होती. आम्ही 1 टोपली भात घ्यायला सांगितले तेव्हा तिला काही पैसे द्यावे असे जीवनने सुचवले. मी तिला 100 रुपयाची नोट दिली आणि गेल्या 10 मिनिटांपासून प्रथम तिच्या चेहऱ्यावर हसू उमटले आणि स्मितहर्षक मान डोलावली. As she walked back against the faded sunset, leaving behind the smile old lady, I couldn't help but wonder. But here, nestling in the foothill of the unknown mountain, away from the hustle and bustle of the road and of the city, were the real people of the India. These were the people who still held on the rich biodiversity of our land, and no one even cared about them. They had never heard the hybrid fertilizer or pesticide. They just grew their rice and ate what they got. The old lady were net had probably never left Boripada. Her world is unspoiled by progress, and for once I was grateful for that Venkat Iyer. So again, I had this whenever I lived on that particular place, she had smiled. I couldn't help her, but I wondered that there is an unspoiled particular nature where she had lived in unknown mountains, hustle and bustle of the road. So real people of the India, they were that in Boripada. In rich biodiversity I had seen, but no one cared about that. There were never hybrid fertilizer pesticide crops grew. They grew the rice what they got, and probably that old lady never left the Boripada in his life. The world unspoiled by progress, and for one I was grateful of that. परतीच्या वाटेवर सूर्यास्ताच्या पार्श्वभूमीवर या वृद्ध स्त्रीचा आसरा चेहरा मागे सोडताना आम्ही मनात विचार केला, इथे अज्ञान डोंगराच्या पायथ्याशी शहराची रस्त्याच्या अजब गजब गोंगाटापासून दूर भारताची ही खरी जनता आनंदाने नांदत आहे. हेच लोक आहेत ज्यांनी आपल्या भूमातेला संपन्न जैवविविधता असूनही जपलेली आहे. इतर कुणीही त्याची कदर केली नाही. संकरित पिके, खते, कीटकनाशके नावे यांना कधी ऐकलेले नाही. आपण आता भात पिकवायचा आणि पिकेल त्यावर पोटभर एवढे त्यांना माहिती होते. आम्हाला भेटलेली ही वृद्ध स्त्री बहुधा बोरीपाडा सोडून कधी बाहेर गेलेली नसावी. तिचे विश्व प्रगती यापासून अबाधित आहे आणि एवढ्याकरिता मी कृतज्ञ होतो. द व्यंकटेश अय्यर. So for the long month, Venkatesh Iyer, writer, got the Kasbai after long days. So this is the lesson about how the Kasbai disappeared and where that planted and people can crop of that field you seen in Boripada. So now let us stop here in that particular lesson. Thank you.